Short barrels, 9mm versus 38 special, and what I have today is our Corbon DPX ammunition. Our 9mm is a 95 grain DPX. Our 38 special is a 38 special plus P 110 grain DPX. And I just want to get this out of the way. When I ordered this ammunition, I do this a lot, where I order for the month and I just get what the website has or something like that. And I did not realize there was a 115 grain plus P version of the 9mm. So I wasn't trying to unfairly make the 38 special look better than a 9mm. I get accused of that a lot, that like, oh, I specifically go with a 38 plus P and standard pressure 9mm to make it look like the 38's better. But in reality, it's just, that's often what the case is. Most of your defensive ammo in 38 special is plus P. Probably 60-70% of your 9mm is standard pressure. So when I see something like that when I'm purchasing it, I just grab it thinking, you know, that's probably the standard ammo. But so this is kind of, I guess, an unfair test in a way. But you know, that being said, our 95 grain is actually marketed as a short barreled load because you're going to get the velocity of 115 grain or 124 grain out of a full-size pistol, but you're going to get that out of a little short barrel. So I think it is a perfect round to test in our short barrels. So I'm going to use my 3.2 inch Taurus G2C to test our 9mm, and then our 2-inch barrel Taurus 605 to test our 38 special plus P. Guns are about the same, they weigh about the same, barrel travels about the same, so good way to test that. Our 9mm is rated at 1300 feet per second, which is a really good velocity rating, but it is only a 95 grain. Our 38 special plus P is rated at 1050 feet per second, probably through a 4-inch barrel, but we'll see what we get here. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. I'm going to go into clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. And the reason why I do that is because I like to see, you know, if there's going to get hollow point expansion with no barriers in a way like denim or rib simulation. Because sometimes you never get hollow point expansion. I like to see at least what it's supposed to look like. And then after that, I'm going to do more of our denim test, which is our real world simulation. 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard to represent hitting ribs or sternum. That'll be more of our real world simulation. And then I am going to shoot our steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy, follow-up shots, recoil control I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 9mm Corbon DPX 95 grain. And by the way, these are solid copper hollow points. I forgot to mention that. Solid copper hollow points. This one's rated at 1300 feet per second. Let's see, I can get my 3.2 inch barrel here. $12.53, $12.72, $12.65, $12.57. All right, I'm gonna fire a couple shots through my 9mm revolver. Just, I'm very curious of what we'll get with this 2-inch barrel revolver here. 12.32. 12.20. So a little bit of velocity loss there with our 9mm revolver. That's to be expected. I think it would still work pretty well. Now our 38 special here, we're rated at 1050 feet per second. And by the way, that 9mm had pretty good velocity for being a short barrel. So let's see what we get with our 38 special rated at 1050. A little bit of flash there. I didn't get a read. Yeah, I'm gonna have to back it up a little bit because I think the flash is interrupting the ability for that to read. So let me back it up just a little bit. All right, I'm about 7 yards from the target. Hopefully I can get a read from here. All right, so I think at this point, this happens a lot with copper rounds, especially flashy ones. I have to get really close to those sensors, so I'm gonna have to go back up a little bit and try to get real close to the sensors without hitting the chronograph. All right, I'm just a tad closer. This is the only way I've found that it works when I can't get a read. Go real close. That is weird. That is weird because the 9mm had no issues whatsoever. Let me try a couple more, and then after that, I'm gonna color a marker, or color a bullet with marker, see if that helps. All right, I'm back to 5 yards. I'm gonna fire a shot with the 9mm again to make sure the chronograph's working fine. It's it's working fine. So I colored one of these, or two of these with black marker. See if I can get a read. Huh. That is weird. 9mm. Well, I don't know, Corbon, what you did to do this, but you did something weird to make it so that just that won't read. So I can't tell you what the velocity is, but we can still test its performance. So let's hit our ballistics gel block and see how these two compare. All right, in the plain clear ballistics, our best potential shot here is our 9mm. All right, let me hit that with the 38 special now. All right, 38 special plus P in our best potential shot. Let's see what this does. Go take a look. All right, so kind of similar performance in a way, except our 9mm actually did a little bit better. Energy dump in that first 3 inches, I would say, is about the same between both of these. So both of them are doing really, really well. We can definitely see a lot of tearing damage. I always find it funny when people say, you can't see clear ballistics damage. Well, what is all this? It's a lot of cutting. You can see, and I see that generally with very thick petals on bonded bullets or with solid copper hollow points, where you see a whole lot of cutting going on, and you can see a ton of cutting. So our 9mm, for being a 95 grain, it looks like it did quite well. We're at about 14 inches of penetration. Camera parallax will make it look like that bullet channel's further up, but we're at 14 inches there. With our 38 special plus P, we're at about 12¼ inches. So they met our minimum, and they dumped a lot of energy in there. So let me put on our denim, put in our MDF for more of our real world simulation, see how they compare that way. All right, more of our real world simulation. Full layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics, 1/4 inch MDF. Let's see what our 9mm does. All right, let me set that back up and hit with the 38 special plus P. All right, 38 special plus P, more of our real world simulation. Let's see what this does. Go take a look. All right, that has some weird, interesting performance going on, especially looking at this MDF. We can see our 9mm went in straight there. Our 38 special, like, what is that? It keyholed through. I wouldn't expect that. And, you know, it looks like what happened is, you know, we still had good expansion after going through that denim with our 9mm, but basically none with our 38, or very little, I should say. We busted off a piece of that pedal with our 9mm, but it actually improved its penetration because we lowered that expansion a little bit. And what we got overall penetration is about 16 inches of penetration, which is really ideal. And when we look at our 38 special, something weird happened. You know, it definitely went through sideways and keyholed, and I can tell that because you generally see very low penetration when that happens. You know, trying to push a bullet through material sideways, it lowers its penetration. So an absolute fail here of about 9.25 inches of penetration. Just not enough penetration. Half the pedals bent out. It looks like the other half bent in. Just doesn't look that good overall, to be honest here. Very, very interesting. So let's pull these out, take a close-up look at them. I'm going to share steel, see what kind of practical recoil control accuracy I can get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets here. Here's our 38 special through our plain gel. Really big expansion and flowering. That looks pretty good. Our 9mm looks more typical for these type of bullets, where it peeled back a little bit. So both of those did pretty good. You would say the 38 did better, but what I'm looking at is typically that doesn't happen, where they flower out and not peel back unless there's a lack of sufficient energy. So we want it to look more, a little bit more like this. This is kind of how they're designed to perform, is to peel back a little bit like that. Now going through our medium density fiber board, here's our 9mm. we busted off at least one of those pedals there, but the rest of them peeled back. Pretty much similar performance, and about the similar difference between a normal lead core jack at a hollow point through plain gel versus through an MDF, or it's just a little bit smaller, peels back. So overall that did pretty well. And I'm really surprised with the low amount of sectional density. Is very, very low. Not only is it 95 grain, but it's solid copper, so you have an extremely low sectional density, yet it's still penetrated very deeply. So that's pretty good to see that. It's kind of interesting how that happens. You wouldn't think it would. Now here's our 38. So we can kind of see what's going on here. We started to get some pedal expansion, but for whatever reason that probably clogged with denim, we didn't get this side to expand out whatsoever. So then it's going to hook something and go through sideways. So I'm not going to shoot that again, even though you might be wondering, hey, would that work if you shot it again? Maybe, but just, I like to do one shot and be like, in the real world, you only got one shot a lot of times. You can't just go through the rounds and find the one that works the best. I like to see what a single round is going to do, and that's what it did. It did terrible. So looking at this overall, 9mm did really, really well, predictably. Not predictably from what I thought, but predictably, and consistently continued to do the same thing through our Denim and MDF versus plain gel, very accurate round, all of that, and our 38 special, not so much. So let's take a close-up look at those. All right, I'm about 12 yards from the target, so I just want to see what kind of recoil control I can get with these. I'm just going to get a front sight picture. After that, I'm just going to pop them off as fast as I think I can hit the target. So here's our 38 special plus P. All right, pretty shootable ammo, to be honest. 9mm, let's see what this does. Alright, so actually there was just a little bit more muzzle jump with our 9mm, but it still wasn't that hard to control, to be honest. So yeah, pretty good overall. And you got to remember, I'm not even looking at the sights when I do that. I'm just popping them off to see if those rounds come back down close to where that first front sight picture was. I do that trying to simulate a situation where, you got tunnel vision and all of that. And like, if you just started shooting and you kind of saw your sights, how tight would they group? That's the reason why I do this type of thing. So I'm going to back it up and slow fire now, see how they shoot for me. All right, 75 yards from the target. I do this mainly just for fun, and mainly for a challenge as well. Also, camera lighting and all this whole thing goes into it. I have a hard time filming up closer in the summer because of the shade and all of that. But I'm gonna see how these things shoot for me. So 75 yards. Let me fire one in single action. Another 38 special. See if I can hit that target. I don't know where that went. I think it may have went to the right a little bit. Let me try one more. Try to keep an eye on where I think it's gonna go. I don't know. A little bit right. So I think that was it, unless that was a dead round. Yeah. So I didn't do very well at all with that. I really couldn't tell where they were hitting. Recoil is pretty low still though for being a plus P, so that's impressive. So our 9mm, I just have a few of these left. Got a lot of velocity, so that should push it out there pretty accurately. It should remain supersonic all the way to the target, so let's see what I can do. So, with these copper bullets, they make a lot smaller impact on the target, but it does pretty much look like, for the most part, they are impacting exactly where I aimed. So this is an easy calculation here, an easy summary of this ammo. This 9mm is good. This 38 special, I don't know, not so good. The first thing that is so weird that we can't get a velocity read with that ammo. A lot of people say, oh, you have nothing but chronograph errors. I actually go long periods of time without having any chronograph errors. I've counted it before. I went like 3 months doing like 12 videos, no, 24 videos without having a single chronograph error read. And nobody in that time said, your chronograph's working great. But then I'll do a video where I'll get like 2 error reads, and then just everybody goes crazy. Oh, your chronograph's garbage. You need to get the Garmin. You need to get the other one. This is what you need to do. And like, you know, sometimes that just happens because of lighting issues, or I'm not very accurate and I'm not going over the sensors. It happens. I'm happy with the chronograph overall because it is a very reliable chronograph for the most part. It's just that people seem to hyper focus on a few errors and not pay attention to how well it works. But anyways, that being said, it is a very strange thing to fire 9mm, keep getting a read. Shoot a 38 in the same spot, no read, go back to the 9mm reads. So basically what I think is going on there, I think it's a 2-part thing going on with it not reading with the 38. One, the bullet is extremely long. Even though it's a 110 grain, it is solid copper, which is less dense than lead, and the hollow cavity is really big. So you have a bullet that's essentially as long as a 158 grain hollow point, typical one, even though it's a 110 grain, and you're moving really fast, and it's copper, so it's shinier, a little bit shinier than typical, and it's putting, you know, a lot more glare over that, and it's not picking up. And you couple that with the fact that revolvers are not very efficient in the way they burn their powder. You're throwing a flash from the muzzle onto the bullet itself as it's going over that, and it makes it extremely hard for that to read. As where our 9mm, there's a less flash, it's more efficient, so it's just zipping over the sensors, and there's not a lot of light there reflecting. It's a shorter bullet. It's probably the typical length of a 115 grain. So yeah, that pretty much explains that. But looking at the performance here, the 9mm is fantastic. I think this is, if I had to carry a short barrel like this, I would probably carry this. I don't carry this pistol. Maybe once in a while, while I'm riding a bike or something, I'll have it, you know, outside rather than the normal pocket carry. But yeah, if something like this, I think this is a fantastic round of ammunition because it solves some issues. You're getting enough velocity there to pretty much match a plus P 115 grain from a duty sized gun, but you're doing it from a little short barrel. Yes, the energy's less, but it's still dumping that energy from high velocity pretty shallow and doing a really good job overall. So you don't necessarily need a ton more energy for it to work well. This 9mm is kind of like a 327 Federal Magnum in that sense. You're getting up there 1250 feet per second with a 90 some odd grain bullet. You know, it's putting a decent amount of energy for what it is, and you're dumping that energy. So I think this would, in the real world, do fantastic to stop threats. And that's some of the things that a lot of experts know that other people don't necessarily know, people that study this stuff. Real world shootings is cartridges that dump their energy actually tend to do a lot better and have more stopping power than ones that don't. And people are like, oh, stopping power is not real. You can't stop somebody. Or knockdown power is not real. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about having a cartridge that's a little more effective to stop a threat than something else. And cartridges that move very fast and dump their energy very quickly do tend to stop threats a little bit quicker. So fantastic performance on this 9mm. Absolute win-win with this. It did really well. The 38 Special, you know, I can't say it's an awful round, but it's definitely not a good short barrel round. You know, the main thing that stands out, other than not getting chronograph reads, and that's not really necessarily a fail, but what we're seeing is bullet tumbling going through the MDF. So what that's telling you is we're not stabilizing that. It's not moving forward correctly. It's coming out that barrel and it's not stabilizing. So if we had it in a longer barrel, like a 4-inch barrel, it'd probably do pretty well. But you know, 110 grain being solid copper, it's probably longer than a 135 grain, but then it's, you know, that distribution of weight is kind of off with that, and I think it's causing it to just simply tumble. So enough rambling here. Yes with the 9mm, no with the 38 Special Plus P. I hate to say that, I love 38 Special, but and this year our 9mm did a lot better. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.